Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to discuss method of virtual forces. This is also called as unit load method. This is used for finding displacements in structures, beams, frames, and trusses. In this lecture, we are going to discuss the general derivation, and then we will also discuss at the end of this. We will also discuss specialization for trusses, how to write this method, and specifically for trusses. So let's first discuss the basics. What is work? If you apply an axial load P to it, and you apply a P such that it is a slowly increasing axial load to distinguish it from an impact load. So it's not an impact load, it's a slowly increasing axial load. Then you can plot the P and X, where X is the displacement being produced. So it is the original length was L, and then X is the displacement of this free end, which is happening because this P force is pulling the rod. So this P is the force being applied, and X is the displacement being produced. So if you look at this graph, it can be a linear graph, maybe initially a linear graph, and then it can become a curve depending upon the material property of the rod. But this is how we can view the relationship between load and the displacement. So this is a load displacement curve for the axial load versus axial displacement. So what is work then? As the free end of the rod undergoes a small displacement dx, the small work du done by the load P is du equal to P times dx. As you can see in this graph, let's see this. If this is the so this shaded area is the du equal to P times dx. This is how you define work. Work is force times displacement. So work is this. So it is P times dx. So this is the small amount of work du done while dx is happening, while dx displacement is happening. For considering the total work done while the displacement increases from 0 to a certain value, let's say x1, the total work done during this displacement, when it increases from 0 to x1, the total work done by the load P as the free end of the rod undergoes the displacement from 0 to x1 is given by integrating this P with respect to x with limits from 0 to x1, because we are considering the work done while x, the displacement, goes from 0 to x1. So this is basically the shaded area, all the area under this displacement, under this curve from 0 to x1. So this integral is graphically telling you the area under this displacement curve from 0 to x1. See, from 0 to x1, this is the area that you need to consider. So this is equal to the area under the load displacement diagram between x equal to 0 and between x equal to x1. So the work done can be calculated. If we can plot the force and displacement relationship, we can calculate work done between certain values of displacement by considering the area under the curve between those boundaries of the displacement. This time we're considering from 0 to x1. So this is how you define work. Now, work is related to strain energy. So let's see what is the relationship between work and strain energy. Now, when the load P is slowly applied to the rod, it pulls on the rod and it induces some energy into the rod because of the deformed shape of the rod. So there is some energy associated with the deformed shape of the rod, or so you can say with the deformation of the rod. So this energy which is stored as a result of this work done on it is called strain energy. This is equal to the internal work done. So strain energy is equal to the work done on the rod, which is given by this expression that you can see over here. Next, we consider two possible scenarios. In first scenario is when force varies linearly with displacement. So in this case, we will be considering work done by a force, and that force itself is producing the displacement. You know, work is equal to force times displacement. So in this case, we will be considering work done by the same force which is producing the displacement, which is responsible for producing the displacement. So in this case, if you can see a rod fixed at the top, and if initially the P value is 0, X is 0, there's no load applied, so there is no displacement happening at the free end. And then if you consider that the P value gradually increases to P naught and the displacement gradually increases to delta. So you can see them in the graph by looking at this. P value gradually increases to P naught, and X value, the displacement value, gradually attains the value of delta. So the work done by this P naught, so work done when displacement goes from 0 to delta, we can calculate that. But before that, let's explore this load displacement relationship. It is a linear relationship. We are assuming that it's a linear relationship. So P is directly proportional to X. Load is directly proportional to displacement. Our force is directly proportional to the displacement it is producing, and we can introduce a constant of proportionality K. So P is equal to Kx, where K is generally speaking, it's a constant of proportionality, but there is a specific name for this. It is called stiffness coefficient. Just I wanted to let you know the name for this: stiffness coefficient, or simply stiffness. So stiffness of the bar, the rod. So K is equal to P naught over delta. It is the ratio of the applied load to a certain value of to the displacement. So K is basically the slope of this diagram, equal to P naught over delta. So if it is a straight line, so it will have a constant slope. So K is the slope of this diagram, equal to P naught over delta. Now with this information in mind, we are interested in finding the work done by P force, work done when the displacement changes from 0 to delta. So strain energy, are the work done when displacement goes from 0 to delta, will be given by this expression. 0 to general expression was this that we have seen on the previous slide. Now we can have some specific values for x1, which is in this case delta. So we can write this down as, we have replaced x1 by delta because x1 was a general term that we were using on the previous slide. Now this time we are using a specific value of, we're calling that that value of displacement as delta, that attained displacement is delta. So the integration has to be performed for the limits between 0 and 5, 0 and delta. Now replacing this P by Kx, we can replace this P by Kx from this relationship. So P is replaced by Kx. Now K is a constant with respect to X. K, as I said, is a constant, so it can be taken out of the integral, and this integral can be solved to be x squared by 2, and then you can apply the limits and you will get delta squared by 2, and then you can just rewrite it as half K delta squared. Now this K can be written back in terms of these two values, P naught over delta, because K is just a slope of this diagram, P naught over delta. So making this substitution, we can see that K is replaced by this P naught over delta from this equation. So we can then see that this delta and delta square can simplify to half P naught into delta. And this is what half P naught into delta is, basically the area of this triangular shape. So it is the area under the load displacement diagram. So we could do it by using the integration method, or we could do it by considering the area under the load displacement curve. In this case, it's a straight line. So when force varies linearly with displacement, and this happens when you're considering the work done by the force which is producing the displacement. So in that case, it is given by half times, you can focus on this equation, it is equal to half times the final value of the force, P naught, times delta, which is the final value of the displacement. So you can see, so this is the first scenario in which force varies linearly with displacement, and we are considering work done by the same force which is producing the displacement. Keep in mind that work is defined as force times displacement. The general equation is work equal to force times displacement. That's right. It is force times displacement. Sometimes this displacement is produced by this force, as we have seen in this first scenario when the force, this is the first case that we have discussed. In some other cases, as we are going to see on the next slide, this force may be, this displacement may be produced by some other force, and we can consider So this displacement may not be produced by the force that we are considering. Work is something. So this was the work done by force. So depending upon whether this force is producing that displacement or some other force is producing that displacement, we have two scenarios. Number one, we have discussed, in which the force was producing that displacement. So in that case, naturally, force and displacement will be linearly related, as you can see over here. But in the next case, I need your attention on the next part, because that is what we are going to use in our next derivation. So when a force remains constant during the displacement, in that case, we are actually considering work done by a force already applied. So we have already applied a force level of P naught, and then we apply some new force P naught, and that new force produces additional displacement delta prime. Let me show you how. This is what we have already obtained. We have applied, the P has already reached a level P naught, and displacement has already reached delta. So we are at this point. Now, this is our starting point for this discussion, for this slide, when a force remains constant. So this is the initial situation. P is equal to P naught and X is equal to delta. We have some force applied, P naught, and we have some displacement produced, delta. Now these two are already there. Initial state is not 0, 0, it's P naught and delta. And then what happens is that we apply additional force, or a new force, P prime, which produces additional displacement delta prime, as you can see in this graph also. So the load changes to P naught plus P prime, the already applied load and the new applied load added together. The total force level becomes P naught plus P prime, and the total displacement is the initial displacement that has occurred and the new or the additional displacement that happened. So the total displacement would be delta plus delta prime. Now we are considering work done when displacement goes from delta to its new value, delta plus delta prime. So we are considering work done between these two values of x equal to delta and x equal to delta plus delta prime. So work done between x equal to delta and x equal to delta plus delta prime would be naturally given by this integration. Again, the same formula, with the difference that now we have integration limits from delta to delta plus delta prime. Now, this can be solved by integration, and I've just done it on OneNote, and I've just pasted a picture over here. As you can see, the same formula as you see on the slide. So we have replaced P by Kx, where K is the constant of proportionality. So K can be taken out common, and then you can solve this to give you x squared by 2, and then 2 is a constant. So 1 over 2 can be written. So we can say K over 2 times x squared with limits from delta to delta plus delta prime. So I'm sorry, there is a delta prime also. Delta plus delta prime. This is not delta plus delta. This is delta plus delta prime. All right. What I want to say is that I have delta plus delta prime over here. So this is a prime over here. So then you can just, use the basic mathematical concept over here. I mean, nothing special in this case. Evaluate the function for the upper limit, and then you put the lower limit value, and then you find the difference between these two, FB minus FA, if you remember it that way. So this is the just simple mathematical manipulation, and then you can see some simplification over here. And then I think up to this point, it should be a simple mathematical job. I've just replaced K by, I can take you to the previous slide maybe. So K is also this P naught over delta. You can say it that way. Or you can also say that it is equal to, you can also consider this triangle, and you can say that you evaluate the slope equal to this P prime over this delta prime. So you can say that K is equal to P naught over delta, and it is also equal to P prime over delta prime. So both are correct. Now I want to take you back to this derivation. I have replaced K by, so both K is equal to P naught over delta and also equal to P prime plus delta prime. All right. So I have replaced K by P prime plus delta prime, and then I can just multiply this, opening the brackets, and then I'll reach this result, and then I'll see that this can be, this P prime delta can be replaced by P naught delta prime. How? Because you can see that if you cross multiply this, I mean P naught into delta prime, and then you multiply this on the other side, P prime times delta. So P prime time delta can be written as P naught times delta prime. So that's why I have replaced this by P naught times delta prime. Now, if you can see, this is basically the total work done between total work done in this phase is equal to work done by P prime and then work done by P naught. Work done by P prime is of the same form because delta prime is being produced by P prime. So work done by P prime would be equal to P naught delta prime by 2, just as we have seen in the first case, because this time delta prime is being produced by P prime. P prime is the cause of this delta prime. This delta prime is being produced only when P prime is coming. So this delta prime is caused by P prime. So in this case, P prime, so there's a linear relationship. And then, but if you can see this force, already existing force, P naught, this delta prime is not caused by P naught. So P naught remains the same value while delta prime is happening. What you can see is over here. While this delta prime is happening, P naught remains same. I mean, when a force remains constant while displacement is happening, and that displacement would be produced by some other force, because only then that force can remain constant. All right. So in that case, it is simply force times displacement. All right. P naught times delta prime. So this is what I wanted to, this is what we are going to use in our next calculation. So P naught was already applied, and then the additional displacement delta prime was produced by some other loads, P prime. So then the work done by P naught is equal to P naught times delta prime. All right. So work done by each force can be calculated separately. Now, principle of work and energy. This is where we're going to converge our discussion to the final result. If you consider this body any arbitrary shape, in practice, this would be either a truss or a frame or a beam, some sort of a structural member. So if you consider a general shape of any body, and then you apply some external loads to it, it's subjected to some external loads. I've shown arbitrary directions of the external loads, external force 1, 2, and 3. So what would happen? This body will deform. I'm sorry, shouldn't say deform. This body will, it does deform, but I wanted to say that the forces will produce some displacements. If you can see, this is the deformed shape of the overall body. So this point anywhere, I mean any point on this body was initially over here, and then it moved to a new place. So this is what we call displacement. Displacement is basically just the position of a change in position of a same point before and after application of the load. So displacements would be produced, some external displacements would be produced. So external displacement produced where at the point of application of external force 1 is just represented by external displacement 1. Similarly, external displacement 2 is produced at the point of application of external force 2. Although there will be displacement all over the boundary of the body, but we are considering the displacement that is happening at the point of application of the external forces, because the reason will become clear in a while. Okay, so when you have external forces applied, there are external displacements produced, and what else happens? There are internal forces induced. When you apply consider a beam or maybe a truss, whatever you like, you apply external forces, there are some reactions, there are some applied loads. So those are the external forces. They produce displacements in the body. They displace the so there are some displacements produced. There is a deflected shape, and then what else happens? There are internal forces produced. Now internal forces are exposed by considering section. So if you consider a section, and then maybe you consider another section, and you separate the element of the body bounded by these sections, you can. This is the element of the body bounded by these two red sections. So this will be subjected. So this is one plane on which we have, through which we have shown the cutting plane. This is one plane, and then there is another plane. So there will be two internal forces acting. There will be internal forces on this plane as well as on the other plane. So I'm just going to show some arbitrary direction for the internal force, because we're not doing any numerical problem. We're just showing what would be produced. So there will be some internal forces on each side. This in practice, this for a truss, this would be an axial force. For beams, this could be a shear force, this could be a bending moment. So these are either axial forces. So there will be some deformations produced in the body. Now I just recall our first few lectures in which we discussed the difference between displacement and deformation. deformation is related to the changes in the shape and the changes in the dimension of a certain part of the body or the complete body. In this case, we have considered a certain part of the body, and we are considering there will be some changes in dimension, there will be some changes in the shape, so there will maybe some curvatures produced. So there will be some internal forces produced, and so those will be axial shear or moment. And then there will be some deformations due to those internal forces, maybe changes in length, maybe changes in shape, maybe some curvatures. So, and then on this side, we have external forces and some external displacements. Now, principle of work and energy says that the work of the external forces is equal to the work of the internal forces. And that work of the internal forces is also called strain energies. So, this is what we need to this is what the general principle of work and energy is. Work of the external forces is equal to work of the internal forces. I just wanted to give you an idea of how those external forces would be produced. So the work of the external forces would be equal to force times that displacement. Similarly, or maybe, okay, so force, those will be related with force and external forces and external displacements. And the internal work of the internal forces would be internal forces related with the deformations. Okay, so next we are going to converge the discussion to the final topic, method of virtual forces. So if you consider, now let's first consider the problem statement. What's the problem statement? The problem statement is we are given a body and it is subjected to a set of external forces, external force 1, 2, and 3, and maybe any number of forces. And then also note down that there are some boundary conditions imposed by these supports, some restraints. You can see that the body remains, the points where the supports are attached do not displace. So because there are restraints applied at those points. So we have no displacement produced at these 3 points where we have restraints. But in other cases, the body will have displacements, and you can consider displacement at any point wherever you are interested. Let's say we are interested in finding displacement at A, maybe in horizontal direction, maybe in vertical direction, maybe in any arbitrary direction. Let's say this direction. We are interested in finding displacement of point A, let's say in this direction. So this is the problem statement. How would we use method of virtual forces to calculate this displacement at A? So this is the objective. Keep in mind that we are interested in finding the displacement at A, and this is of course happening because of the external forces. External forces are producing these displacements. So we are considering displacement at just one point, displacement at A, and we want to find displacement at A due to these external loads. And these are of course some real actual loads. Now, how would you apply this? There are 2 steps. Step number 1 is apply unit virtual force at A. So this was the given body, and you apply a unit virtual force at A. Generally, we would say virtual force at A, but we would often keep the magnitude of this equal to 1. So we would say unit virtual force at A. The reason will become apparent as we see the final slide. So unit virtual force at A is applied in the same direction in which we wanted to find the displacement. So if we wanted to find the displacement in this direction, so we applied the unit virtual load at A in that very direction in which we wanted to find the displacement. So note down that this unit virtual force is being applied at A. So we are applying unit virtual force at that point where we want to find the displacement, and in that direction in which we want to find the displacement. Okay. Now what happens? This is kind of a story that I can tell you, but I just wanted to put it in a tabular format, but to make things easier to conceive. So we have applied a unit virtual force. This is a virtual force. So a virtual means that this is not a part of the actual loading. We are bringing in this force just for the sake of derivation, or what should I say, just for the sake of ultimately finding the displacement at A. So virtual force, we have applied a virtual force at A, and this is an external load. Okay, this is an external load. We have applied it externally on this body at A. So I've just said external load, and I said yes, applied. That means that we've just applied this external load. That's all I wanted to say. And then, of course, this will also produce some external displacement. It will change the shape of the body, change the length of the body. So it will, the boundary of this body will have certain changes, but we're not interested in those changes. You will see why. Okay, we're not interested. Those will be produced, but we're not interested in those displacement. We will see why we're not interested. And then internal loads will be produced, because when external loads are applied, internal loads are automatically produced to maintain equilibrium. And then, so I just said yes. All right, so they are produced. I'm not representing them by any symbol. I just want to say internal loads, they will be produced, and we are going to be interested in those internal loads. And then there will be some deformations produced by this internal load, some changes in length, some changes in shape, some curvatures. So, but we are not interested in those deformations. So for the virtual unit load, we are interested in the fact that we have applied a unit virtual load externally to this body, and there will be some internal loads induced because of the application of the external virtual unit load. In the next step, we would be applying the actual loads. So external force 1, 2, and 3 applied, and then what happens? Just tabulate it. We have already discussed this first row, and then we are in the second stage. We have applied, in the second stage, we have applied some external loads, and those are the real loads. That's why I have written real over here. And then all those effects will be produced: external forces, external displacement, internal forces, and all deformations. But so I've just said external force, yes, it is an external force, and it is applied. So in the second stage, and then external displacement at A, yes, there will be some external displacement produced all around the boundary, and then we are specifically interested in the external displacement at A. We have just we could represent it by delta A if we like, but it's better to just say external displacement at A. And then there will be some internal forces induced, but we are not directly interested in those internal forces. We are interested in finding there will be some internal deformations produced. There will be some changes in length, some changes in shape, some changes in some curvatures introduced. So there will be some deformations. We would be interested in those deformations. So for the real load, we are interested in the external displacement at A that would be produced because of application of these real loads, and the deformations resulting from those application of the real load. All right, so let's take this table to the next slide as it is. I'm just taking this table to the next slide because that's what I'm going to need. I would need in the next slide. So this is the same table that we developed in the previous slide, and then that's what the principle is. We are going to consider work done by the virtual forces. So work of the virtual external forces and the work of the virtual internal forces, those should be equal. This comes from the principle of work and energy. We are considering work of the virtual external forces, and then on the other side we are considering work of the virtual internal forces. So work done by virtual forces, external and internal, those should be equal. That's what we have learned. Now work of the virtual external forces would be related to the external force, virtual external force, and the displacement that happens due to the application of the real loads. Now this virtual load was already applied in the first step, and then it remained constant, and then a new load, real load, came in and it produced this external displacement at A. So virtual external force, this virtual external force, it remains constant while the real external forces, these forces, produce the external displacement at A, and of course that's the real displacement. Okay, so let me repeat this. These virtual forces remain constant while these real forces do the job. I mean, they produce the external displacement at A. Okay, and then similarly for the internal virtual forces, they remain applied, they remain constant while the internal virtual forces, real internal forces produce these deformations. Let me show you this. The virtual internal forces, these forces remain constant while the real internal forces produce the deformation. So while real deformations are being produced, these forces remain constant. Why? Because those were applied in the first stage. Just recall our initial discussion in which we discussed the P versus X relationship. So we discussed that P, it is equivalent to considering the work of P naught while delta prime is produced in our previous discussion, if you can recall. Okay, you just recall that figure. So we are considering the work of, if you consider work of P naught while delta prime is happening, it will be equal to P naught times delta prime. Okay, similarly in our case, this virtual forces, external and internal both, they are already existing, and some real loads come in and they produce some external displacements, and some internal deformations are also produced. So how would we write the work of the virtual external forces? Would be equal, so the virtual forces are basically the free riders. They are applied, and then this, I mean, just stick to the structure, and then with those already applied, some new forces, which are the real forces, are applied. Real forces are the actual forces are applied, and they produce the external displacement and the internal deformation. Now, unit virtual external load at A. So we are calculating work of the virtual external forces, which would be equal to unit virtual external load at A times displacement at A due to real load. Okay, so what unit virtual external load at A times displacement at A due to real load. Okay, and this is what we need to determine. Keep in mind, this is what we displacement at A due to real load. This is what we need to determine. And this is since a unit value, so if you multiply it by 1, it will be same thing as you see on this side. So we will have on the left hand side, we'll be having displacement at A due to real load. And this is how you can calculate it. This is what on the right hand side you have work of the internal work of the virtual internal forces. So internal forces due to unit virtual load, these forces, internal forces due to unit virtual load, these forces would ride along these deformations, and these deformations are due to real load. So let's now specialize this for trusses. Truss members experience only axial forces, so the internal forces will be only axial, or only axial will be, so no shear force, no bending moment. And deformations in case of truss members are either elongation or shortening. So now this was the general formula that we had on the derived on the previous slide. For specializing it for trusses, we would replace these. So this is the same thing as you can see in the previous equation. And then on this side, you can see we have replaced internal forces due to unit virtual load by member forces due to unit virtual load. So these are the axial forces in the members due to unit virtual load. And what is this? Deformation due to real load will be either elongation or shortening in the member due to real loads. So this is how you can write it in symbolic forms. Let's represent unit virtual external load at A by delta PA. Delta P is just a symbol for virtual external load, simply, and A is to tell that we have applied it at A, at point A, and then displacement at A due to real load has been represented by dA. Okay, D this for displacement, and A to tell that it is at point A, and then this is summation of all forces, summation of this summation for all members. Now member forces due to virtual unit load, we have given them a symbol delta F. So these are so when you see delta with a force, whether external or internal, it means it is due to the unit virtual load. This is the unit virtual load externally applied at A, and this is the internal forces, and basically the member forces produced when due to application of this external load. And then elongation or shortening due to real load, we are just represented by E. So this is the elongation of the member, this is the member force due to unit virtual load. So you need to just sum these up for all members, and you will be able to calculate because this will be equal to 1. We will apply unit virtual load, this will be equal to 1. So we can say that this equation is sufficient to calculate the displacement at A, and this is what we wanted to find. Just recall the goal of this discussion, displacement at A. This was something that we need to determine. So you need to perform the analysis such that you need to perform the analysis twice. Once subjected to the unit virtual load, you calculate all member forces due to that unit virtual load. Maybe you can list them down in the form of a table, and then you apply next step, you apply the actual forces or the real forces, real loads on the truss which are given, and then you again calculate the displacements, or should I say not displacement, the elongations in that due to those real loads. So that's it. Thank you very much.